All right, we are live again. Hey, everybody, I'm Ed, leading the project over at Bolt Fun. I'm back for another workshop today. Today we are here with Dan, aka BitGold on Twitter. Dan has been working on an awesome Legends of Lightning submission called NoLooking, which some of you might also recognize is now sitting in the Umbral store. I'll let Dan go into the details in a little bit, but essentially what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be sort of bootstrapping your first Lightning node, finding and funding channels using NoLooking. And what's happening in the background is some really cool, fun payjoin stuff. But I'm looking forward to hearing more about it today. It's a little bit on the cusp of my technical expertise and scope, so I'm just looking forward to getting into it. But Dan, maybe I'll hand it over to you. You can maybe give a little bit of an introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we can just get into it.
Yeah, thanks for the great intro, Ed. The tournament's been fun so far, and glad we can present to the workshop. So my name is Dan Gould. I've been crushing global passive adversaries since 2015 in the form of making Bitcoin more private. The NoLooking project came out of some research with, okay, we want to use payjoins to fix some Bitcoin privacy, and that's when you can make a payment to someone on the Bitcoin main chain without exposing how much you actually paid, and it looks like a self-transfer. So I know this is on the cusp of a lot of people's technical understanding of Bitcoin, but we're going to bring it down to earth here. And the point is, by adding this privacy tweak to channel openings, which is what NoLooking is all about, we can actually save you time, we can make them cheaper, and we can add privacy as a sort of Bitcoin Trojan horse. Bitcoin is a Trojan horse for freedom. I think payjoin is a Trojan horse for privacy inside Bitcoin. So to kind of get right into the problem that we're attacking is, I don't know about you, Ed, but the first time I tried to start a Lightning node back in 2018, I went through all the server software, get my firewalls set up, got LND installed, made my keys, SSH, and then I have the node and I'm like, I don't want to put Bitcoin on this thing. I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know who to connect to. I don't know if I'm going to make any money. And I'm worried about the security of the whole thing. And then even on top of that, if I put money into it, then I have to make all these other transactions and manage my privacy. So with NoLooking, we changed that whole user experience into scanning one QR code, because all of those decisions can really be made for a majority of new users. And then even if you want to tweak what you're doing, I can show a picture. Hold on one second. You typically have to make a whole bunch of transactions to get bootstrapped. So on the top, we have, you deposit your transaction, you deposit your Bitcoin into your Lightning node, and then every open you want to make, you have to, okay, I have to talk to my peer and make a new channel. I have to find and talk to another peer and make another channel, and so on and so forth. And this is only outbound, you don't have inbound channels. So with NoLooking, by using this interactive protocol called payjoin, which is a fancy way of saying letting the person funding and the node opening the channels talk to each other, that initial wallet can just open all the channels at once. And we're going to show you what that actually looks like in a minute. In order to take advantage of this right now, we need to use a payjoin supporting wallet, which is like Wasabi or Sparrow or Join Market, or we made a little tool to actually work on Bitcoin D and LND. And to double down, in the past, you'd have to open 4 channels, you'd have to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions. That's 5 mining fees. That's 2 confirmation times at least, because you have to wait for the first confirmation to the Lightning node in order to open to the channels. And then you're still not connected to anybody inbound. And with NoLooking, all the setup is done for you. So when you scan the QR code, that one transaction is posted to the network with 1 mining fee, and you're done after your setup. let's get into what that looks like. So
cool. Look forward to hearing more.
Do you have any questions yet? Any confusion?
No, this makes sense. Can I just ask a quick? I'm like the dumb 5-year-old in the room. I like being the stupidest in the room, so I can ask these kind of questions. Can you quickly touch upon the difference between inbound and outbound liquidity for maybe those people who aren't familiar, and why does this only solely specifically focus on one type of bound?
Well, it does focus on both types, but it's much easier to make one than the other. So we're looking at a Lightning Network right now, actually. So if we can take Alice and Frank right here, and we've got this channel. So a Lightning channel is two people locking their Bitcoin and then paying each other with upgrades to that transaction, that locked Bitcoin, and just settling later. So right here we have a channel that's 888 sats total, where Frank has 835,418 and Alice has 50,000. And that's mostly an outbound channel from Frank to Alice. So Frank, because he's got all these sats on his side of the channel, he can pay Alice. So Alice could only pay 50,000 sats. That's how much is on her side. And Frank can pay a whole bunch. So we can demonstrate just a payment here in Polar by making an invoice at Alice that's more than 50,000 sats. So we can do 100,000 sats invoice, and we can have Frank send that because he's got it in the channel. So there, successfully paid 100,000 sats to Alice, and you can see this color changed a little bit. There's more on Alice's side now than Frank's, and you can see the balance update to affect that. So like, what's the point? What does that have to do with opening channels? When you open channels, if you have Bitcoin on your node, you can post a transaction to the other person that they signed, but they don't usually contribute Bitcoin. So you can only pay money out and you can't get money back in. That's a huge separate problem beyond the scope of this video, like how to get inbound. But the point being, when you use NoLooking, you can pay for someone else to open a channel to you. So you can both send and receive payments right off the bat. And we can demonstrate what that looks like now. Unless, do you want more clarification, Ed? Is there more?
Makes sense to me. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, cool. So we see we've got these new nodes in the network, Ivan and Judy. We're Frank in this situation. So this isn't a totally new node, but it doesn't matter. We still want to batch our transactions together. We want to get inbound. We want the privacy benefits. So what Frank needs to know is who he wants to connect to. And he launches NoLooking. So this is not too hard for Frank. He's got that app on his computer, just running on his Umbrel, and he opens it up. So we open up NoLooking. This is what we have. It's a form to open transactions. We're trying to get that QR code. All we need to know is if we want inbound, okay, we do. And if we want to open some channels to other people. We have a recommendation engine, PR in the works, so even the channel opening can be automated. You can just opt out of the defaults if you want. But for now, we'll do this manually. We know we want to connect to Ivan and Judy. So we'll get Ivan's address. We'll get Judy's address. These are their references on the network. These are like what they're known as, their aliases. And
where would someone find these addresses? Could they find them on something like Amboss? Would you just want to look at nodes that have like good reputations? Or yeah, like how would I find these addresses that I can put into a transaction?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that shows that there's another problem here that we can still solve, which is like, who the hell do I connect to? And that's where the recommendation comes in, and we're really excited to release that, but it's not it's not quite ready. Like I said, the PR is there. For now, you can go into amboss.space, which is a Lightning Network Explorer, and you can see, okay, are there new nodes that need some capacity? Are there some people I transact with regularly? Like maybe you send money to Kraken, you do some trading, you want to connect to Kraken's node. And then another consideration that we hope to make less of a consideration for people, help people with the decision, is how much money do I have to put up? Because someone like Kraken, you need 1 million sats to make a channel with them. They won't even accept a small channel. So the whole problem we're solving with this is encapsulating all of these decisions into the QR code, so that even the amount, you can just get the QR code with the payjoin, which I'll show you in just a second, scan it, and then whatever amount you send, your Lightning node can make a decision as to who to connect to based on that. As long as there's a minimum, say, 200,000 sats, which is about $50, you'll get connected to the network and you'll be able to send and receive some Bitcoin. All right, so let's open this. We've got a request for inbound, which is going to cost us 30,000 sats. We're making a channel to Ivan, outbound, 888,000 sats. A channel to Judy, outbound, 888,000 sats. There's also this complexity I didn't even touch on called a reserve requirement, which is your Lightning node needs even more sats than the channels it opens to negotiate in the failure case. So if someone's trying to close a channel on you, you need to be able to post another transaction. The details aren't really important. The point is you just need to have even more reserve on your node, and we've totally automated that as part of the amount in the QR code. So you can see the amount here. It's a little, it's 160,000 sats. Sorry. It's 1,600,000 sats because we've got the 800,000, the 600,000, the 30,000, and we're already set up so there's no reserve requirement. But if there was a reserve requirement, we'd have that in here. Do you follow so far? Okay.
Yep, following. As much as I can.
Scan this QR code or copy the BIP21 link. This is the Bitcoin Design Guide Unified QR code. So even if you don't have payjoin, it'll still fall back and deposit to the node. But we have this payjoin endpoint, so this is going to connect to our server. You copy this. We're paying out of the reg test node we have. This is our on-chain funds wallet. This is our new Lightning node with NoLooking. So we're going to pay to Frank and open to Ivan and Judy all in one go, just like we show here. So we're going to, this is our reg test wallet, and this is Frank, which we're going to pay all through one transaction, all one arrow here. Paste that in there. We're running the payjoin client. All it needs is the BIP21. Taking a minute to build, apparently. Moment of truth, as with all live demos.
We really need to get a jingle for these, because we have quite a few of these like live coding demos where it's just like balancing on a knife's edge, and I feel like we need to get like a fun jingle.
Did I copy paste wrong? Yeah, it looks like I did. It won't build this time. It's okay. Oh, what happened? I just ran this every time. We can look at it regardless. So here's the transaction we made. We've got outputs. So we've got the reserve requirement. We're adding a channel, 10,000 sats. We've got change from the original, and we've got one of the channel outputs. Let's try with just just one and see how that goes.
Dan, do you have to have the reserve amount for each and every channel that you open, or is it just a large reserve amount on the node in case one of the channels gets closed?
So it's the latter. You need a certain reserve depending on the number of channels you have. So it's like you need 10,000 sats per channel up to 100,000 sats on L&D. So all of that dynamic calculation is done in the background.
Okay, makes sense.
I just want to make sure everything is sane before I try again, because you gotta. Yeah, it looks like it to me. This is up. One 172.25.0.11 is Ivan, I believe. Yeah. These are brand new nodes, so they might not have been synced to the network, is what I'm thinking. No, it just doesn't want to work with us, which is, yeah, I mean, you do it right before you come live, and then sometimes sometimes you just get some love on this side of things. But we still got the transaction from the payjoin, the original, which is the important thing to look at here. Where we pay, where is it? Right here. So we've got the channel opening, we've got the lease at the same time, and the point of what's going on is the client didn't know about these outputs. This is a taproot output. This is a 2 of 2 multi-sig channel open, and the server took that original address, the original payment from the client, and just totally replaced what's going on their side. That way they can pay the lease, they can open a channel, and they send it back to the client to sign. So it all happens at once. And then once you're open, you can do the same thing you did before, which is send a payment. Boom. And then whoever you paid for the lease, which is the LSP we created on the back end, can actually open a channel for that on-chain payment of 30,000 sats. Not Frank. And then you have the ability to both shoot payments out of the network and then get paid. And that's it. So that's the demo of NoLooking.
Really cool to see the visualization. There are 2 channels actually between Alice and Frank. I didn't realize that you could have multiple channels open with the same node. That makes sense. Is that what was happening there?
I think so. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, so there are two channels there between Frank and Alice, right?
Yeah, I think that might have been the problem with the original, is I had the I was trying to make a payment to, yeah, there's an ingoing, there are 2 channels for some strange reason, because that's what I opened in Polar. Really, that should be done with splicing.
Would you care to explain what splicing is for those people who at home who are not familiar? Or is that too much of a big ask?
No. Splicing's just like you have two pieces of rope and you bring them together so they're the same thing. So in this case, you have two separate channels. So what we really want is to bring them together so they're one thing, because they're communicating between two parties. It doesn't make sense to hold all this extra state. So instead of having this green rope and this green and blue rope, you just attach the green rope to the end of this one, and you get one longer rope or one thicker rope. Instead of opening a second channel, you close the first channel and add the second one you want to add right into it at the same time. It's not widely available yet, but there have been some channel splices on Sea Lightning, which make it so you can add an on-chain payment into a Lightning channel whenever you want.
So I guess, am I right in thinking that this also has the added benefit of, instead of having two, let's say I have two channels open with you, and let's say they're both 0.1 Bitcoin. So instead of having two 0.1 Bitcoin channels, we can have one channel which is 0.2 Bitcoin, and then that would probably be more efficient for whether it's like transaction routing or even just like payments between us, making sure that those don't fail or there is enough in the channel at all times. Am I right in thinking that it also, having one channel, so using splicing, has a positive effect towards like the liquidity of the channels and the management of them?
I think so. It makes it easier to push value from one person to another if you're just doing that over one communication channel instead of two. If I had to text you and tell you what I was doing for everything on this call, it would not be as seamless as it is right now.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to think of it. I mean, regardless, feel free to slide into my DMs, Dan. But yeah, I do get your point there. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover in the workshop, maybe before I start asking some real newbie questions?
Oh, this is a great time to ask questions. You can follow me at the handle on the screen. You can follow the project at Chaincase or at Chaincase app, and the NoLooking project you can find right on the main page. You want to go to the GitHub and try the alpha. You can do that in the releases. There you go. We're on the Umbrel App Store, which is probably the easiest way to get started. You won't run into the problems I had. You just launch the app. It's connected to your node already. You get the QR code. You scan it. Or you can build, and there are instructions to go the hacker route in the README. If you have any questions, I'd love to take them.
Cool. I mean, I don't know if I told you, but I'm going to be setting up an Umbrel node in the next couple weeks. TM, probably more likely a couple months. So I'm super excited to actually try this out myself. And I think that I'll probably get a much better grasp of what you guys are trying to do when I actually come across a lot of the pain points which you guys are solving. One thing which, we've talked a lot about payjoins before and coin joins and things like this, and obviously having a positive effect on user privacy as well. So the NoLooking application, to me, it seems to solve two issues really. Like the first is that you don't have to do these kind of like start and stop payments for funding the node, then opening a channel, then opening another channel, then another channel. And instead of having like 5 different transactions to basically bootstrap your node, you can just do it through like one payjoin. But there has also been some conversations around like preserving privacy with Lightning. Could you maybe touch upon maybe some of the like discussion points and maybe how NoLooking or the payjoins that we use help preserve privacy of people who are running Lightning nodes?
Yeah, I'd love to. When you make a payment, or I should say, when you make a transfer on chain from some sats in an exchange to your Lightning node, you link that node directly to your identity because you probably have revealed your identity to the exchange or whoever paid you in order to get those sats from them. When you use a payjoin to make a transfer on chain, you can break those links. So not only can you don't have to make some sort of transfer to break the links and then open your Lightning node. You can just immediately, if the exchange supports payjoin, which we've talked to some about, you can immediately pull the coins from the exchange to the payjoin. The exchange does their due diligence where they identify you, and everything's open. And we can build all sorts of things on top of the payjoin unit. Where just two people collaborate, we can make multiple collaborations. But I think the interesting part of applying it to Lightning is we can get privacy as a Trojan horse. We solve this other onboarding problem by using the pay.endpoint protocol, and we can increase the payjoin adoption as a side effect at the same time.
How common are payjoins at the moment? Are people using them as much as you would like to see? I guess there's always room for more adoption of these practices.
I feel like that's a leading question. Yeah, so
no agendas. Yeah.
payjoins aren't as widely adopted as I'd like to see them. The cool thing about them is they look the same as a whole class of other transactions that anyone would make when they're spending Bitcoin. So it's hard to tell how many people are using them versus how many people are just taking some old inputs in their wallet, merging them together, and making another payment. That's kind of the beauty, is they have an anonymity set. Payjoins are hidden and you can't tell if someone's using a payjoin. But they're probably only in the single-digit % of all Bitcoin transactions, if that. That's the anonymity set of these unnecessary input heuristics that we can identify. And we'd like to increase that set. That way everyone can get more privacy. Even the people who aren't using payjoin, if they fall into this this fingerprint on the blockchain, then they get some privacy benefit from it.
Okay. I don't want to go too far down the privacy rabbit hole, because I feel like we can.
Well, we got a couple more minutes.
Series on that, but I do want to dip my toe into the rabbit hole a little bit. Can you explain to people what an anonymity set is? We've heard the term used quite a bit. We want more people to adopt these things, but I think that people maybe don't actually understand why they should be using these types of transactions, and why they should maybe be worried about it. A lot of the conversations I have with people, when we were doing a lot of research into sort of coin joins and privacy preserving coin selection practices and things like that last year, a lot of the conversations I was having with people were, well, why do I need to do this? Isn't Bitcoin private by default? So do you want to maybe just a couple minutes talk a little bit about also what you do with Chaincase and why that work is really important, and why people should be keeping an eye on their UTXOs or their coins, and what an anonymity or anon set actually is?
Yeah, my whole focus with Chaincase, NoLooking, my mission is to solve the Bitcoin privacy problem. We have Bitcoin, which lets people transact without third parties, but the only way we're going to preserve that is if they can do that without being worried about third parties watching them. If people can watch you, they can control you. If they can see what you're doing, they can make decisions based on that to discriminate against you. So when we think about Bitcoin privacy, one way to think about that is in terms of an anonymity set, or how many people or how many transfers, what size set does your Bitcoin transaction fit into? And that way, if someone's looking at your transaction, they can't distinguish it from a certain number of people. And the more we increase that, the more difficult it tends to be to carry out targeted attacks, whether you're trying to, where an attacker is trying to figure out who this one person is, they have to eliminate all these other possibilities. So by increasing the number of possibilities, it makes the ability to surveil you more difficult, and that's what we're trying to increase.
Cool. So the way that I've always kind of understood anonsets, which is actually what you sort of taught me, Dan, was that it's kind of about hiding inside of a crowd, right? So making your coins indistinguishable from others. So for example, I have a coin which is 0.1 BTC, and maybe I can hide within a set of 10 other coins which are also 0.1 BTC, and maybe these are all outputs from the same transaction, which is where you have sort of payjoins and coin joins, which is why they sort of preserve privacy of your Bitcoin. So really important, I think, for people to kind of understand that. I think that a lot of the privacy stuff in Bitcoin is overlooked, and I think it needs a lot more focus. So huge hats off to you guys, what you're doing with Chaincase and NoLooking. I think this stuff is just super important. We had a comment here from Johns, who's probably hiding somewhere in the jungle. I don't know where he is, but he says, okay, so I see two UX issues: discovering who to open the channels with, and wallets which have not implemented payjoin. NoLooking depends on both of these things being solved. Is that in scope? If yes, how?
So yes, we're solving both of these problems, but not during the tournament because they're slightly out of scope. So we have the first problem, discovering who to open channels with. I might be able to show you a picture actually. So Armin Saburi, 0x Beef Cafe on Twitter, has been working on this awesome pull request that I don't think there's a screenshot. Hold on one second. Let's see if there's a screenshot. I'm digging. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, let me share my screen. So that it gives you sane defaults for who to open channels to if you have 100,000 sats, if you have 1 million sats, if you have 10 million sats, because like you said, that's really hard. That was hard for me when I first started using the Lightning Network. Okay, so I think we're sharing now. Okay, yeah. You can see this right here. We've got some recommendations for a routing node, edge node, or some special node depending on your requirements. We've upgraded this UI since this is our first sketch, but if you want to review it, the PR is number 71. And then the other thing of getting people to implement the send side, there hasn't been a good payjoin library that just allowed exchanges, like I said, or wallets to integrate stuff. So we're building a library in Rust that lets you run payjoin no matter what architecture you're on. So kind of the first thing for us to do was to get that running on the Intel chip computers that we run Mac OS and Linux on, and the Raspberry Pi in the ARM architecture. And now that we have that library, we are starting to integrate with other projects, browser wallets, P2P exchanges, and hopefully some more mainstream exchanges or wallets. So if you have a software project that wants to integrate payjoin, we'd love to talk to you.
Okay, well, that probably leads nicely into this question from Johns. Do you see NoLooking as something which other LSPs implement, or are you more pleb focused?
I think it makes more sense for settlement, which means LSPs. I think that's where on-chain Bitcoin is going to shine. And it might be controversial to think like not everyone's going to own a UTXO or not everyone is going to be able to self-custody Bitcoin. But even when it comes to bank accounts, like there are people in my family who don't want to have their sovereign bank account. Like they involve family to help them use those products. So I think this is more targeted at the sovereign crowd and making someone who opens a lot of channels, making their life easier. Even if for this first iteration, it's kind of to help someone just get started.
Cool. And then actually another point that was kind of raised here was that it seems like NoLooking is also making privacy preserving practices a little bit cheaper. Would you say that that's a valid assumption and a nice USP for NoLooking?
That's the hope. That's a nice thing to say. Yeah, it makes this whole class of problems much easier. So if you want to start a node, if you want to bootstrap, if you want to open a bunch of channels, it's cheaper. And then we can add the privacy preserving batching, the shape of the transaction, the fingerprint, the anonymity set. We can fix that at the same time. So it's cheaper.
Okay, cool. Yes, John's cheaper because it piggybacks on opening channels. Exactly.
Thanks for the questions,
cool.
Johns.
Yeah, he's always there. He's hiding somewhere. He's probably halfway up a palm tree with his computer. We're still enjoying the terrible Wi-Fi in El Salvador. Conditions here in the midst of being improved, but it's okay. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm kind of in this concrete jungle at the moment. I'm actually sitting right next to a lovely river though. It's a nice place. If you are interested in coming to Bitcoin Beach, I would definitely recommend it. It is super awesome here, really nice community, and it's great to see some adoption on the ground as well. Being able to pay for stuff, even just a coffee in Bitcoin is it's really cool. I still don't quite get over it, to be honest. It's really simple. But yeah, Dan, is there anything else that you'd like to add just before we leave things today? Maybe we can actually do some more privacy workshops with you in the future if that sounds good, because you have one of the best privacy brains in Bitcoin, and I'd love to pick it a little bit more.
That's nice to hear. Thanks for saying that. I'd love to continue with the workshops. There's actually a Bitcoin design community workshop, the 6th on payjoins. So that's going to be public. It's going to be similar to this, but it's going to be more focused on the design hurdles and solving them. For now, the best thing to do is to check out the alpha, give me your feedback like Johns did. And yeah, we're just happy to wrap up the tournament. It's been a ride. It's been awesome. 6 weeks. There's nothing like it in Bitcoin. Not before this.
Yeah, cool. It's been great to have you guys take part. So Dan and his NoLooking team have been taking part in the Legends of Lightning tournament. Submissions do close tomorrow at midday UTC, so there's only probably about 16 hours left. I'm not quite sure, but less than a day left to go until the submissions close. So it's just been super great, and I hope it gets the kudos that it deserves. Here's John. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Oh, Johns.
Cool. Well, we'll leave it there today, Dan. Thank you so much again for taking part. But we hope to have some more workshops on this soon. And yeah, thanks again for coming on and talking today. Always much appreciated.
Thanks, Ed. Bye.
Catch you soon, guys. Thanks for joining in, and we'll be back with another one soon.